What's the matter? What's he say?
He says keep out.